Ladies and gentlemen, welcome into the episode 16 of Tuesday Track Talk featuring your Three Stones pit crew. I am Kellen, your jackman.
I'm Cameron, your gas man.
And I'm Cam, your tire changer.
And we've got quite the episode today. We've got everything from racing vocabulary to breaking news with Kyle Larson, and a little bit of dirt super late model racing out west at Vado. So we're gonna kind of cover the gamut. We'll be kind of keeping you in tune here and there if something big happens at the Chili Bowl. So as we're just kind of recording here, we'll be kind of glancing around, keeping an eye on that as well. But fellas, what's new from the last rendition?
We're only 9 days into 2024, and we already got awesome racing. So
Yeah.
that's about it. The boys at Vado, and it's driller season already. So nothing new here. First, I would say for me, first real week of actually being dialed into the Chili Bowl, and been an awesome couple nights of racing already. So I'm just looking forward to watching that the rest of the week, and Vado's in full swing. So nothing new here. Racing's picking up again. Life is good.
Yeah, and we've said this before, is when Chili Bowl week comes around, FloRacing pays for itself just for this week alone.
Absolutely.
And especially now that the entire thing is on Flow, where it used to be the C's, the B's, and the A main on Saturday used to be on MAV TV. Now it's all on Flow. Just makes it even that much better. So no, this is awesome. It's a great week. Our Packers snuck into the playoffs this past weekend. I think that wasn't on our bingo card as when the season started. So got to be happy about that. And yeah, just starting off the new year basically with some exciting stuff.
Well, it's talking about Flo and the Chili Bowl. I think we're recording here in about 40 minutes ago. The news that Kyle Larson is going to return himself to the Chili Bowl this year, kind of as a late entry with that Coons Motorsports team. So for them, adding another one to the stable, but also adding a guy that can go in there and win that deal. So that's breaking as of not even an hour ago.
So for those that weren't watching Flow at the time, they had an interview with Keith Coons about how the whole deal kind of came together. And Larson texted him at 8:00 this morning. Hey, congratulations on your prelim win last night. If you get a chance, give me a call. They had a conversation saying, I've got the bug. I'm looking to maybe around Thursday. Do you have an extra car? Keith Coons is like, yeah, let's call some people up. I'm sure, Toyota and Chevy and sponsors and all that. Make sure everybody's okay with him running it. Everything was good. Got the logistics figured out. Was able to get it set up. So the big question revolving around it is how Larson has to pretty much lock in on Thursday in order for this whole logistics thing to work out, especially for Saturday. So that'll be another storyline to kind of follow, especially when Thursday comes around.
Yeah. So a lot of moving pieces, to say the least, in terms of getting that whole deal situated. Obviously, he's been down at Vado, running with the Kevin Rumley squad in that 6 super late model. So, yeah, kind of another fold in the whole Chili Bowl week is a guy jumping into the program late, and especially a guy that could hop in a car and win this whole deal. So, kind of going on that, we want to talk about winning this. How have we felt about the last couple nights of racing?
Been solid. Their track's looking really good for a lot of these guys. I haven't heard any bad comment. All of them are saying, like, Walkopedia, this is his week where he shines the most. He loves the Chili Bowl and he does a lot of coverage with it. He was saying that if the track gets prepped like this all week, this is probably going to be some of the best racing Chili Bowl's ever seen. Like, it's solid.
No, and so far, I mean, this is kind of a dome race. Like, not only that, but you get out here and you can't afford to get tangled up in a mess and blow a tire and um go to the back or not even finish the heat. So again, it's just another race of you got to go, but one mistake and you've got yourself in almost a insurmountable hole. So just interesting to watch the whole thing and the way guys are racing. Um, somebody where he makes us say and he looked dang good tonight was
Yeah.
Buddy Kofoid.
You were saying in the group chat, he's a man on a mission this week.
And he was crossing people up and yeah, he looked good. So no, it's fun. And then obviously we got just guys that you want to watch race that have thrown their names on there. Tyler Courtney, Ricky Thornton Jr., Kyle Larson, Buddy Kofoid, T-Mez. I mean,
Parker Price Miller, Justin Grant.
yeah. And we're forgetting a whole host of people.
David
Chase
Gravel,
Briscoe.
Nick Hoffman.
Yeah. So yeah, I think this is just obviously we're only whatever a few days into it, but just great superstars from all
All over.
backgrounds of from all backgrounds of racing coming together on this little bull ring and letting it rip. So no, it's been awesome so far.
I think the other thing too, kind of referring back to the dome in St. Louis, was the personalities. You see some of the personalities come up on this. Like Hoffman yesterday, referring to, I'm doing this for all the shitbox drivers out there. And then they just had the piece on Robert Bell just before we got on today, his little journey from last year as well, and the character that he is. So that's the other thing is you see these cast of characters from all around the country and around the world, because you got guys from Canada, and Australia here too. You get to see all these cast of characters, just like the St. Louis Dome, just in another form of racing. So it's really cool, just to see everything and how it works out. So yeah, it adds to the excitement of this week.
You get to see guys' personality, and then not only that, but we don't encourage or vouch for it on this, but I guess we can promote it because they promote it, but you might even see some fists being thrown. They told them what you've got between corner 1 entry and corner 3 exit.
Basically, the two exits or the two ramps for the
You've
track.
got between those the entrance and the exit to settle it. And they basically said they're not going to step in unless it is somebody goes down and there's a major advantage. So
Which I think
if you're
is,
into that kind of stuff, we don't promote it. But if you're into it, this is another reason.
but I think it's smart too, because like the explanation of it too was we don't need to bring up in the pits where you have a lot of people moving around, a lot of cars moving around. You don't need, multiple people gaining up on one person in the fight, or people getting tossed into cars, or, you don't need any of those extracurricular activities going on. It's controlled, for lack of a better term, on the racetrack between the two drivers. That's it.
Yep.
And it's one of those, if you're fighting in the pits, you're gone for the rest of the week. Doesn't matter if you're a main or not, you're gone.
And that's a good stance to take on that, and just dictionary it right from the beginning.
Yep.
Here's your risk reward. You want to fight in the pits, pack her up and head home.
Here's the president for the week. We're not budging from it.
Yep. So pick and choose your battles wisely, and go from there. So that's kind of a wrap on what's been the first couple days of Chili Bowl. Obviously, Sunday we had practice. Monday we had the race of champs with Logan Seavey winning that deal. Talk about a reigning champ showing up. He pretty much had that race
good this week.
Yeah, he pretty much had that race under wraps, and then as we're recording, we're midnight 2. So it's kind of where we're at with the Chili Bowl. Let's go out west. We're gonna go super late model racing with Vado with the Wild West Shootout. They're kind of a little bit on the same schedule. They've had 2 nights of racing already. Tuesday night's a practice night for them. Cade Dillard winning night one in the supers and the A mods. And then Bobby Pierce winning night two, but Cade Dillard winning night two in A mods as well. So, that dude's got it figured out. And they actually, Larson posted, they had a little snow on the, a little
Yeah,
snow on there actually. So that's pretty crazy. Like we're sitting up here in Wisconsin here. I've got 8 inches in the last 12 hours. So,
and I got 1 inch.
and then you got Larson, who's got his car out unloaded down at Vado for practice night, and they
Yeah.
got snow. So, and obviously just a little bit, but kind of cool to see that as we're getting pummeled up here. So, but no, Vado's been great. The track prep's been awesome. It's been last night was super windy, or 2 nights ago was super windy.
Sunday.
Sunday, yeah. But they did a hell of a job with that track prep. You got Bobby Pierce doing Bobby Pierce things, riding the top. You got guys wrapping the bottom. You got guys just throwing bombs at each other. So that's been it's refreshing to get back on flow and listen to the Lucas Oil guys on the call and get to see those massive sliders. It just gives you the itch again, you know. It's like, all right, let's get these boys rolling on the series and we can flip on every weekend and get them tuned in. So yeah, that's been they got good racing out there. So any final thoughts kind of on Vado before we jump into the main content for today?
I hadn't watched any races out there in the past, so tuning into that one, I really did like how just that track runs. It seems like it's very wide and fast. I'm trying to think of like a track that it kind of compares to. I think it's Portsmouth, I want to say, like as far as how wide and fast it is.
Yep.
And again, I'm obviously not that tenured in the dirt racing scene, so I'm just kind of shooting from the hip. But it's that drew me in a little bit. Mike Marlar kind of strutting his stuff again, and on Sunday as well. He had that all locked up until that caution with 5 to go. So still showing how that switch over late in the season for him is still proven to be good for him and really coming in strong for the new year.
Yeah, and I think kind of piggybacking off all that, Cade Dillard getting a win was happy for him. Is a guy who runs World Outlaws. I think does he build a lot of his own chassis, or he has a chassis business?
He's got a chassis business. He builds a lot of modifieds. He runs
So
the Longhorn and Super.
yeah, so obviously somebody who's dirt racing through and through. Again, doesn't have a whole lot of wins, or not always consistently up there, running front. I know when we were at Cedar Lake, I don't know if you guys remember him, but he rolled out there and for intros, and then they went to fire him and roll around the track, and he had the
Oh,
battery issue.
yes, that's right.
No.
And so they had all the crews from all the different teams in there helping him. Luckily, he got out there, but no, good for him. And then, Bobby Pierce getting a win the other night was his team ain't missing a beat, picking up right where he left off. And then somebody I'll give a shout out, because I'm sure he is listening to the podcast and keeping receipts. Turbo, Tyler Erb.
Yeah.
I shamed him as one of my 2023 biggest bust, and he must have listened, and he's really motivated because he's starting out 2024 with a solid run. He's been solid both nights. I know for sure he podiumed on, was that Sunday night? I think.
Yeah,
Sunday
Sunday.
night. I was on the podium. So no, it's been good racing. Kyle Larson's out there again. So again, when he throws his name in the hat, obviously it's going to be good racing and some of Dirt's best out there. So, yeah, got another week where you need multiple screens.
I didn't realize that they were running 2 different tire compounds, or they had the option to run 2 different tire compounds. Because Mike Marlar mentioned that in his interview that he went with the softer one, and he thinks that's what hurt him on that restart.
Yep.
Was he didn't have whether they were really just worn off or they got too cold or whatever the case was, or didn't get cool enough. That's what hurt him on that restart. That's what allowed Bobby to get around him then.
Yeah. Yep. So, yeah, and you got to remember the track was drastically different as well with the wind.
Yeah.
Yes, because it's so goddamn windy. But
Hey, Cal, come on, shout him out.
but
Nope, come on, shout him out.
what up there?
Shout out your neighbor.
Oh, my neighbor. Yeah, of course. No, a kind of a surprise. Even going to a backup car. Garrett Alberson.
Mm.
The dude, we always, it's a running joke amongst us because I'm out of Platteville, Wisconsin. He's out of Dubuque, so you could throw a football down to the shop was when we kind of joke about it. And but no, one night he had issues with the car. He went to a backup unloaded, and he went from like 16th to 7th or something in the backup car.
Damn.
The dude, it was quick time the first night overall. So the dude's unloading with rockets this year. So hopefully we can keep that rolling and get that rocking into 2024 and whatever series or events he decides to follow. So
Has he made an announcement if he's following a series and what series?
I don't think so. But I would, if I had an inkling, I would guess Lucas Oil again.
Yeah.
Speaking of that, gotta kind of jump in real quick. Buddy Kofoid announced that he was running the World Outlaws today as well.
You'd see that,
Yes.
yeah.
Yep.
So that's big move, I think. There it adds to that World Outlaws roster. I'm interested that he's committing to a series though. I know he was kind of a true outlaw, kind of just running races here and there and hopping in and out of the midget car as well. So him committing to a series is actually a little surprising to me. So it'll be interesting to see what he can do. He kind of referenced the TRD program as a big reason why he's doing it, but also still kind of maybe have some sights on NASCAR as well. So excited to see what he could do there. But I thought of that just as you were saying, kind of what series is good around. So I had to throw that in there real quick.
I thought I want to say another thing that might be adding to that or why he's doing it, stability. Last year he
Sure.
was, true outlaw, picking and choosing all of his races, but he was in, I think, 3 different seats last year at least, with 3
Yeah.
different teams. So he might have settled down and got some stability and a team that's going to back him and say, we're going to, whatever you want to do, here's your options. We'll do it and we'll stick with you. And
I believe he's got that Mobile One sponsorship too. He's got TRD, but I think he's got Mobile One as well, and that's a big sponsor to bring in.
Yeah. Yep.
So could be it too. But either way, again, if not a star on dirt already, definitely a rising star. And a name that people on the dirt scene, if you're not familiar with, you will be very soon.
You mentioned the word buddy, and there's a lot of people that know exactly who you're talking about.
Yep.
For sure. Well, that kind of wraps up what's been a chaotic review of the wild week of Dirt Supers and the Chili Bowl and kind of where we're at with those. But now I think now's the opportunity to jump into the fun stuff for today. So as suggested, requested, I would say would be the words. We've had a couple requests for what would be as the comment said, Racing for Dummies 101. But no, just kind of a good opportunity to touch base on some of the terminology and some of the lingo that we as household race fans know. We say, and you may be, what's that? So I think this episode is going to be for you to be able to follow up on that and kind of cues you in on where we're at in terms of different things we may see or say that kind of leave you wondering, oh, well, that's weird. So it's a great opportunity to collect that dialogue and be able to make that connection in terms of some of just the terms we throw around. So we're going to cover race format. So kind of how a race day would look for both dirt and asphalt. and even NASCAR. And then from there, we'll go ahead and jump into different terminologies and differences for those two different surfaces. So you're going to kind of get the whole gamut of what race day looks like in terms of structure, and then in terms of just some of the different terminology and differences and similarities that both the dirt and the asphalt may have. So that's where we're headed. The very first one we'll jump into right away, and we'll kind of jump into what will be your race format. So jump in this. So right out of the gate, we're going to go ahead and jump into our short track racing format. So just kind of talking about the logistics of a race day in terms of both dirt and asphalt. And then at the very end, we'll kind of briefly touch on NASCAR just as it kind of follows through with these two series or structures. So first one we'll jump into asphalt short track racing. So kind of looking at this as it goes throughout the day. When you look at it, most times they have what they call a rotating practice. And most times it's a blocked section of time where it may be a 15-minute practice. It's a 10-minute practice. It's a half an hour practice. So you'll kind of, each series will get their practice times. And then from there, they'll jump into their qualifying. So qualifying can be a little bit different just based on the series, where most times with your asphalt super late models, those will be single car qualifying, or they may even do group qualifying, which would be 1 or 2 cars, maybe 3 at the most. But most times you'll see single car time trials from that. So they'll get their qualifying results top to bottom. And then from there, they will cover or go through the invert, which would be up by us, or the series we follow would be a dice roll plus a selected number. So if you dice roll a 6 and your invert number is 3, you're going to invert the top 9. So 9th qualifier will be on the pole, 8th, number 2, and so on from there. So that's kind of how you would set that your field with an invert. From there, they will run heat races, and most times the heat races are pretty short, less than 10 laps, depending on the track. Most of them are going to be 6, 8, 10 lap heat races. They're just kind of groups based on your qualifying. But at bigger events, this is where you can lock cars into the feature. So you go to some of these bigger events, you could see heat races where you lock the top 3 into main events. So opportunity to also get track time, but make sure you're in the show before you even have to get any further into it. Some of the events up by us, I say this just kind of with super late model events in mind, is they will run dashes. So the dashes are kind of like heat races, kind of similar, but they can be based on odd or even. So where you qualified, odd 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, even 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. And they will take those, and even some events will use those odd and even dashes to set lineups for inside and outside rows. So again, same idea. You could start at the back of a dash. You could make up a little ground and advance your start position for the main event. Going from your heat races and your dash down to your C and B mains, this is what you would call your last chance qualifiers, where you have cars that are not locked in. It's a 24 car show. You've got 31 cars at the event. If you're not locked in, this is your opportunity in your B main to be able to race your way into the show. So most times there's a selected number of last chance cars that will get into the feature. And then from there, to kind of round out your field, is you'll be looking at provisional drivers announced. So most times when you talk about provisionals, these will go to drivers that are running that series for points. Or there may be different types of provisionals, such as a promoter's provisional, or different things like that that can get select guys into the field to kind of round out the total field for that said event. So from there, it's nothing left but the A main or the feature race. So that kind of looks, that's a kind of a look into what your race structure looks like for your asphalt short track racing. Kind of giving you a sneak peek into different weekly structures, and then obviously some of the bigger main events with having around last chances and provisionals and things like that. So
I was
Yep.
gonna hop in. So and break this down like even further or even simpler terms. So like Kellen mentioned practice. That's 10 minutes. You can go out there, you can run 2 laps, and you come in and you say, this car is really slow. You talk to somebody, your crew chief, you go in there, you change your tire pressure, you change whatever adjustment you think is going to make the car faster. Then you can go out there and you can practice more laps. You think it's slow, you can come in, whatever. So that's practice is like blocked off. You got 10 minutes to go out there and basically practice. You can do whatever you want. If you don't want to run any laps, don't have to. If you want to run 50, if you can run 50 laps in 10 minutes, you can do that too. But that's just basically a time for you to get out there and get yourself acclimated to the track and what you have in your car. So, was just going to jump in and kind of chime in on a few of these things. Qualifying, Kellen kind of mentioned it, single car and group. So that basically means single car, there's one car on the track at a time. You basically get 2 laps and you have your, hopefully Van Grohl's got it in his race lingo and terminology. And why am I drawing a blank on it?
Set up.
No, your timer. What do you got on your?
Stopwatch.
No, what do the guys have in the car?
Receiver.
Huh?
What?
You, oh, oh,
Why can we not?
transponder.
Transponder.
Oh yeah.
So guys got a transponder on that times, when they hit the line, go around, whatever. So single car means there's only one car on the track. You get 2 laps and go as fast as you can and don't wreck your stuff. Group would mean we're going to put, at like stuff around here, 3 cars on the track at a time.
Yeah.
So there's only 3 cars on the track. You're all running your 2 laps at the same time, and then you get your time and then you're done. So those are just couple one-hitters. And then the other thing I was going to mention, so heat races for, even breaking it down even further. So heat races, what Kellen said, would lock you into the A main or the feature. So you go into a heat race and they'll say only the top 3 cars are guaranteed to race in the feature. So you go into the heat race, you got to finish in the top 3 to lock yourself in to race in the feature. If you're not in the top 3, then you're going to C and B main or last chance qualifier. So a lot of times heat races will say we're going to take the top 2 or we'll take the top 3, which means by taking the top 2 or 3, you have to finish in your heat race in 2 or 3, and then you are guaranteed to race in the feature for the big money. So just gonna kind of chime in and break that down even a little bit further. Yeah.
Yeah. Couple good points. Yeah. Even go ahead.
I did have a couple of points as well. Practice, they do also have scuff sessions. So a lot of times it's, guys will practice on tires that they've ran a lot of laps on. It's their own tires that they bring in. And then they'll put their stickers on, also known as a brand new tire, to pretty much scuff them in, kind of break them in a little bit before they go out for qualifying. And then for qualifying, sometimes they'll also lock in a predetermined amount of cars as well. The top 16 cars are automatically locked into the feature from there. And that's kind of how that invert works as well. So I think you guys covered the rest of it. That was the only other 2 points that I had.
Yeah, so there's even layers inside of just the terminology itself. And these are all just examples. You have to remember that these can vary from event to number of cars that are at said racetrack, and that can even vary from features weekly to special events. So the numbers, we're just throwing out theoretical numbers to give you an idea of what this structure may look like with that. So yeah, even a couple that I need to let me slip by here. So
Nothing you let slip by. I'm just probably getting
no,
there's
you're good.
sub bullet points below the bullet points and
No,
sub bullet points below the sub bullet points. So,
no.
and like you said, we can explain this to you, and you could take this to the racetrack with you, print this off, and take this with you. And you might show up to the racetrack thinking you have the answer key, and you got the answer key to the wrong test because
This is
because
100% the
the
case.
event might be doing something different. So, we're just speaking in general terms.
Yeah.
This is
Throwing
a general format of what most racetracks will follow. They'll follow some format of this.
I'm gonna do a little shameless plug here as well. Great Lakes frequencies. Kellen and I think Cameron as well. You know this, like the frequency sheets that I get typically at the racetrack, or you'll see. The guy that I go on the track with, he puts all those together. Typically for a lot of the short track races and like the ASA National Tour as well, he'll put a schedule of events and kind of breaking it down as well on his list. Pretty close to how this works. List out all right, what are the provisionals, the features, the invert number, anything like that. So they do a really good job as far as event breakdown as well on the asphalt short track racing scene. So
There you
I had
go.
to throw that shameless plug in there.
Yep, there you go. You got the answer key when you show up. You don't even have to take it with you.
Yep.
The answer right there when you get there. So yeah, so again, a ton of different layers to all of this, and just trying to give you a general idea format in terms of numbers and events and timing and what that may look like. So yeah, that kind of touches on what is your asphalt short track racing outlook in terms of that. So kind of a couple anomalies, and I threw these in here just because I feel like we can talk about this even a little bit more in depth. Um, there's a few different race structures in terms of length that you'll see for us. Some of them, they're just going to be you could call them a single run race or straight through. Most times, at least for the asphalt late models, you're going to see those be about 100 laps, where the only downtime you really have per se would be cautions. So just counting 100 green flag laps, just gonna run them straight through. But then if you look at some of your longer features, and most times you're looking at races that are gonna be more than 100 laps, some can even run up to 400. Um, you have what you can call a controlled caution, where you'll have your crew in the infield, and you can come down and you can make changes where you can change tires, you can make chassis adjustments, you can fuel the race car. If you're quick enough, you can make shock changes as well. Where you kind of just have like a mini pit set up in the infield. And then as long as most racetracks, as long as you come out in under 3 laps, you will get your spot back. So they're just controlled in the sense of it's not a green flag or a live pit stop. You come in, you make adjustments as long as you fall under that.
You don't lose positions to the guys that come into the pits with you as well.
Correct. Yep. Yeah. Yep.
If you stay out, you start behind them. But if everybody comes in, you come back out in that same position.
Yep. The order you go in is the order you come out, as long as you fall in that said lap count, which is counted by the pace car. So,
That was a very big Midwest thing. It's always been a big Midwest thing for years. It's kind of starting to sprawl out to other short track series around the country. I know the ASA Stars Tour picked that up when they formatted. I know the Snowball Derby, that was a big thing as well, where a lot of teams were spending a lot of money on the pit crews because they were green flag style laps or pit stops. Now that they're controlled cautions, they're saving some money there and throwing in a little bit of strategy for it as well.
Yeah. So order you come in, order you go out, as long as you fall under that given time frame to come back out. So basically you just have to beat the pace truck out onto the racetrack for that said number of laps. So that's what a control caution looks like. And most times you see those in your bigger, higher paying, longer races in terms of that. But then one other kind of anomaly that you may see is you call them like a segmented break or a stage break, kind of similar to NASCAR a little bit in the sense. We're like up here for us is we have Dell's runs. They had the following. They had the stage break at lap 75. They let the cars go back to the pits to make changes. Where you may see a longer break where it's not counted by a number of laps, or it's just a set amount of time where guys can make adjustments on their race cars. So that would be a little bit different from your controlled cautions. So just felt like that one was something that we could kind of just acknowledge and have in the memory bank for that one.
An example that I got for that is kind of referring back to the previous picture we had with the Slinger Nationals. Typically what they do is they'll run 99 laps, throw the caution, everybody goes back to the pits for 10 minutes, make whatever changes you can make in 10 minutes, you come back out and you run the last 101 laps from there.
Yeah.
A lot of guys not Dick Trickle, Rich Bickle was really famous for this. He would change fire suits during that because it felt like it would be a brand new race then.
Oh,
So he would
cool.
change fire suits.
Yep, a little more strategy involved.
Yep.
But yeah, so you may see an event like that where you may see the cars actually leave the racetrack and then come back out. They'll line them up again, and again, same scenario. You would not lose your position based on how you go in and how you come out. So same exact idea in terms of the scoring. So yeah, that kind of touches on some anomalies you may see in the asphalt late model world. So from there, we'll go ahead and jump over to the dirt. So
God damn it, that's a good photo.
yeah, it sure is. We might have even been there for that one.
For those that are listening, this is the USA Nationals from this past year. It's their 4 wide shot on the backstretch side. So
Yeah.
Can we
Yeah.
see us? No.
No. But
I
yeah,
don't know.
so
There's a guy, there's a white shirt sitting. Yep, you got your point. Nope, go down a little bit. Right there. I wonder.
that
That's
might
pretty
be it.
damn close.
We'll have to take a zoom and take a little look at it. But yeah, so we'll jump over to the dirt side of things. And dirt is a little bit more straightforward. It's a little bit more simple, I guess would be the word you would say. Now, at least on the asphalt or the dirt late model side of things, their practice, or they call them hot laps as well. Most times they let 3 cars out at a time and you get 3 timed laps. That is it. So when you would see I think most times if you watch Lucas Oil, it's your dirt draft hot laps. They get 3 laps. You get 3 green flag hot laps. So only 3 laps instead of a blocked amount of time.
You got to come off the trailer good.
Yeah, you got to unload ready to rock and roll is what it comes down to for practice. So then from there, they go right into qualifying, and their qualifying is similar just in the sense of when they let 3 cars out at a time and they'll stagger them on the racetrack. So they'll let 3 of them out, they'll stagger them a third of a track apart, they'll cut them loose. They get, again, it's usually 2 or 3 green flag laps, 3 up to speed laps for their qualifying session to set their quickest cars of the night. So there's qualifying heat races, very similar to the asphalt side of things. Most times your heat races are going to be about 10 laps based on qualifying. It will lock. Most times it's 3 cars into your main event for the evening. So again, same idea. You can make ground, you can lose ground. And then from there, that will set your C and B main features again, but just depending on your car count, where that last chance qualifier is your last opportunity to lock yourself into or race your way into the big feature for the night. And then same as the asphalt, provisional drivers are announced based on points and the many different ways you can count a provisional, and then they go feature racing. So a little bit more abbreviated, a little bit shorter, just in the sense of practice is 3 laps, qualifying is 3 car groups. So yeah, that kind of is your dirt side of things.
And I think kind of just comparing the two. So asphalt, you might have a set block of time, 10, 15 minutes. You can go out there and run 50, like we said, you can go out there, run 50, 25 laps and take all the time you use all the time or use none of the time. Dirt don't work like that. You get 3 laps. So when these guys are saying, you have to unload or you got to come off the trailer good, means when you show up to the racetrack and you go out there for your practice, you need your car to be fast because you don't have, when you only get 3 laps to practice, you got to be able to diagnose, why is my car slow in 3 laps? So, just a big difference there is between dirt and asphalt. Dirt, you only get 3 laps for practice. And there's no time. Similar to qualifying, asphalt, you'll see 1 car on the track a lot of times. Dirt, you're going to see 3 cars out on the track at a time, and they're all doing their timing, timing in, and then the heat races and so forth kind of follows the same structure. You'll get a heat race. If you race well enough in the heat race, you'll almost lock yourself in from here down to the A main. You can skip a couple bullet points. If not, you gotta keep reading. Go to the next bullet
Yeah.
point. So
read the fine print.
yeah. So general format, like you said, dirt's a little bit more straightforward. Then I'm sure you got another slide talking about a little bit. Do you have another slide or no?
Not for the dirt, no, just for structure, I think. Yeah, for structure I do, yep.
Okay,
So
yeah.
when you look at the structure of the races, most times for the dirt super late models, and I think this will be your biggest difference, is a lot of the biggest dirt super late model races are run as like single run events or straight through events where most will cap at about 100 laps, where they're just not counting caution laps. It becomes a tire conservation game. It becomes a fuel conservation game, where your right foot could dictate if you're going to make it to the end or not based on fuel mileage and saving that right rear. So, kind of just in terms of having cautions or issues, I would say in terms of, I got a flat, you're just kind of at the mercy of race control. Can you get that car to the infield quick enough to change a tire to be back out before they go green or before they reset the order? So, that's where, again, crews will bring tires and they'll bring equipment down to the infield, but you're at the mercy of race control. So I don't think, and Cam, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think I've seen an event run with a dirt super where they've actually had a break to work on the car. No.
No. And
So
I would say that is, if you're going to look at, feature events, that's the biggest difference. In asphalt or on the blacktop, they'll have set breaks where you stop and you go to the pits and you make changes. They'll tell the drivers will know ahead of time, we're going to run 50 laps. Then I get to take my car to the pits, work on it. Then we'll run another 50 laps. I get to go to the pits after that. And then the race finishes at 150. With dirt, I would say 90% of the time or 95% of the time, the races are 40 laps. And once the green flag hits, unless somebody crashes, you don't stop until you're done racing, until you clock off 40 laps.
I have seen one exception to it and this is very circumstantial. It just depends on how the race runs. If they have a lot of caution laps, they'll have a break to let guys put fuel in the car. But
yeah,
that's a very how the race is running, and if they extend the race a little bit, that's the only situation that I feel like that would circumstance or override everything that you said.
Yeah, a little bit more an anomaly type scenario. Yeah.
Yeah. But that's the biggest difference is a dirt race. Once you get the green flag, you don't stop until you've completed all the laps unless somebody crashes.
Yep.
In
You got what you
asphalt,
got.
yep, in asphalt, you might have set breaks during the race where you know, everybody's gonna stop at lap 50 and you go to the pits. Dirt, there's none of that. Green flag, and you don't slow down or stop unless somebody's spun out and in your way.
Yep, you got what you got. And even then, if you get damaged, um, they may allow you, there's usually officials right off of turn number 4. That if you get into a little bit of a wreck, there will be an official that if you stop there, they will pull fenders out and then it's get back in line. So, even then you get in a little bit of a wreck. You may not even have the ability to come in and change tires, and there will be an official there when they go to change tires that will deem that tire is flat. Otherwise, they will make them bolt that tire back on as well. So, again, trying to just keep the playing field level, but yeah, the dirt races, they're a little bit shorter races, but they put on good shows as well.
Well,
So
you got this awesome picture pulled up here,
yeah.
and we're talking about racing 101. Do you think it would be beneficial to do an episode like talking through, like putting a picture of a race car and talking through the different parts and what can be changed and what we talk like when we're talking about the nose or the
Dude.
spoiler or the right rear, like
Oh God, we could have, ooh,
We,
oh, sorry, I'm watching the Chili Bowl, big hit. We could have an episode just on a dirt car and an episode on a late model or a cup car.
we could talk hours on a dirt lane model.
just throw that in the memory bank.
Yeah.
Got it. Will do.
Anyways,
But yeah, that's kind of the structure of the dirt late model formats. Um, kind of just a brief touch on it, just because I feel like in all of our other terminology, we've kind of touched on it a little bit. And I think when I mention this NASCAR format, I'm talking more so just about the feature. Um, NASCAR in terms of qualifying, they will qualify, yes, but they also do not run an invert. Fastest car starts on the pole. It's 1 to 38, and whoever shows up, you're going to time in there. No heat races, no provisionals. It's just you time in, and that's where you're going to roll off for your feature. So, the little bit different format with NASCAR, and this would be for their top 3 series. Is they have those stage breaks, and most times it's a caution. They get the green and white checkers, and they will award points for the top 10 placers in each stage. So there's some incentive to race in the middle of the race, and even that first place finisher or stage winner gets a playoff point. So talk about pointing your way into the playoffs or giving yourself an advantage to carry points into the playoff system.
And throughout the playoffs.
Yep. As well as once you get in, they can carry you through as well. So, I kind of gave a little bit of an abbreviated point breakdown. So, first place is 10 points and that playoff point. Second place is 9. Third place is 8th. And then you go all the way down to 10th. They get 1 point. So, those stage breaks, live pit stops, just like a regular pit stop, come in, make changes. You want to stay out, you can stay out. Otherwise, that's really the only big difference. And then, as well as in NASCAR, caution laps do count towards the total race. So, where you look at a lot of the short track races you're at, caution laps do not count towards the total. In the NASCAR format, they do. So, kind of a double-edged sword where if you get a wreck fest of a race, you don't really get green flag runs, but those laps do count towards your total. So kind of just a brief touch on NASCAR, just because we've kind of covered everything else, but no heats, just qualifying, line them up, we're going racing. So
you see this pen or no?
yeah, you put a dot right by my D, didn't you?
I was gonna do some drawing.
I think
Jesus.
it's whatever you finish drawing is when we see it.
Yeah. What?
So the race, 300 laps. I was gonna say, just break it down.
We're feeling frisky tonight, aren't we?
Stage 1, 2, 3.
Wow.
This is awesome.
So this stage 1 in a 300 lap race might be 75 laps. And then at the end of those 75 laps, first place, if you're in first at the end of 75 laps, you get this up here, 10 points. And then you run another 75 laps at the
Oh,
end of stage 2, and somebody's awarded 10 more points. And then you run 150 to the end, which is this over here is 300.
yep.
You
Somebody's-
finish the race, you run the last 150 laps, and
Yep.
then that race winner gets more points than 10. Correct?
No, 10.
No,
It's 10.
at the end of the race, it's the normal points. You only get those point awards at the 2 stage breaks.
Yeah, you get to lock yourself into the playoff. That's it. You get to 10, but then you're locked in.
Correct.
Got it. So I guess I don't know if this
you don't get the
helps.
points. You don't get the stage points at the end of the race. You just get the race points, and then if you won, you're locked in.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't know if this kind of helps break down. So this is why we're talking about when you're talking about stage 1, and there's 10 points on the line. Some guys, this is why we talk about, guys are racing hard in these first 75 laps because they want these 10 points. So they race, pretty hard in the first 75 laps, as opposed to if there wasn't any stage breaks, they could just do nothing for the first 290 laps and then race hard for the last 10.
Right.
So that's kind of like how we're talking about the race within the race. And that, I guess, is in my mind how I'd break down, visually the stage, a NASCAR race, 300 laps, stage 1, 75, stage 2 is another 75. And then 3 usually is a little bit longer, 150. But if they stop the race at these lines right here, they stop the race. They throw a green, that's basically a caution, and they stop the race, and then you can go into the pits and do the whole jazz. So
yeah, so that's kind of a breakdown on NASCAR. Okay.
bingo.
Well, that's format. We've covered the format. That's what you see in terms of logistically from a race standpoint. So we'll go ahead and kick it over to the vocabulary fellas. You guys are going to dive into, and if some of these terms that I threw out here do not make sense, don't panic. You might get an abbreviation here on a couple of them. So just
We'll try and clean them up as we go.
yep, we just had to get the format out there, and then we'll brush up your knowledge here as what do we got?
Race lingo.
You ready?
Per expectation, from the dirt guy. So we're going to jump right into when we're talking about dirt racing. You can hopefully get a little bit on the same wavelength as us, or at least have a baseline knowledge of what we're talking about when when we're chatting about dirt racing. So dirt racing lingo, let's get into it. So first, classes of cars, which I don't know why I did not put a picture on this slide. But first you have late models. So there's, a couple different kinds. Super late model, open motor, the most horsepower, the fastest that you're going to get. There's a 604 late model, same car, just different engine size. And then 602, again, same car, just different size, motor. Then you're going to get into sprint cars. These are the funky looking cars with the wings on the top. Again, they're really fast. And when they wreck, you typically don't spin out and keep going when you wreck in this, like your night's over. Pack it up. So there's two different types of sprint cars. There's a 410 sprint car, and then there's a 360 sprint car. So those are your two types of sprint cars. And then lastly, on the dirt, you'll also see a modified, and there's an A mod and a B mod. And then you might also similar cars, obviously modified. And then Kel left out maybe the greatest dirt racing class of all time, street stocks. You might you might run into those at your local local short track. Kel, if I might yeah, I'll just skip it for now. I was gonna pull up some pictures, but I'll be Googling a bunch of stuff. Anyways, so those are your different classes of cars and what you might expect to see. Some nights, if you go to a dirt race, they'll run a late model class and a sprint car class. They might run, you might see these both at the same night, at the same racetrack on the same night. A lot of times you'll see only late models and then maybe, modifieds with it, or you'll see only sprint cars and then modifieds with it as well. But if you ever do come across an event where you're seeing a super late model and a sprint car, if they're both racing at the same track, this is what we would call, must watch TV or a must be there event. So those are kind of the different types of classes of race cars that you'll see. So with that, we're going to get into what are you guys laughing at?
The group chat shenanigans. We'll unrelated to racing, so you don't have to look. Oh, you already looked. Okay.
No, I didn't look, but you guys are laughing, so I'm not
Yeah.
gonna...
Unrelated to racing. Keep going with your thing.
Anyway, so first, whoa, getting a little excited there. So when we talk about, a lot of times you're going to hear us talking about guys so-called ripping the cushion or they're running the cushion. And this is about, if you Google dirt racetrack cushion, this is about, best picture you're going to see. So as you can see, usually there's racetrack over here, down here, but then you can see this dark layer of dirt. I can't annotate.
Oh,
Yeah, you betcha I can.
Like a curb almost.
yeah.
Oh yeah. Right up here. This dark,
Oh,
see this dark
yeah.
right in here. So this is the cushion up in here, and it's like a curb. And so when we talk about guys ripping the cushion or whatever, it's typically, as you can see, right up here is next to the wall. It's typically right up by the wall. So when guys are up there, they're running this, and a lot of times you get more speed when you are up here. You don't have to use the brake as much. A lot of times you're smashing the gas all the way around the top of the racetrack. You get more speed down the straightaway, but with more speed comes more risk. Clearly you can see you are right next to the wall. So a lot of times, on a dirt late model race, these guys, you'll look at the right behind the right tire, the right rear tire, and the decals got the right rear of the cars typically got a lot of skid marks on it. So that's from banging the wall down and running the cushion. The other downfall of running the cushion is, as you can see, or they already talked about, usually it's like a curb. And so if you get in too deep into this stuff, that grabs you. And that'll send you for a ride, and a ride you don't want to be on. Typically flipping over or do some damage to your car. So you're basically up here, you get the most speed out of the corner when you're out, typically when you're running this cushion. but it's a fine line. With more speed comes more risk.
You're
And,
living dangerously.
anything I missed on the cushion?
Oh no, you just gotta say you like to live life on the edge.
Yep.
Yeah. And obviously you can see this stuff in here is not smoothed out. Like you said, it's kind of like a curb, and when you hit it, it grabs you. And as guys run this, they run right up on this. This will just continue to get pushed right up to the wall.
Yep.
So the more the guys run it, this dirt will get flung outside the track, or it'll get flung, stuck on the wall, as you can see. And pretty soon it's going to be right. You got it. No choice but to run right next to the wall. So when we talk about a cushion, that's what we talk about. Again, not a lot of brake up there, whole lot of gas. But with a whole lot of gas comes a whole lot of damage sometimes.
Buddy Kofoy just won his qualifier, by the way. So
Setting himself up for the A main tonight.
yep. All right, Cam. Sorry about that.
Next, this is getting into, so we talk about cushion. This is a dirt term you're going to hear often, that is a track condition. So dry slick. So this is going to be referring to the track itself. And as you can see, no moisture on the track, and it's often dusty. So when we talk about dry slick, I'm going to get out my,
You gotta get your marker again.
yep.
You're feeling artsy today.
Yeah, we're adding a new element to the channel, the art section.
So when when we're talking about no moisture on the track, we're talking about this right here. I don't know if you can see that.
Yep.
Yeah, there's no moisture, a lot dusty. When we talk about this, oftentimes sometimes this will get almost like an asphalt racetrack almost.
It rubbers up.
Yeah.
There's a lot of rubber from the tires, from their tires, all the laps being run. There'll be a lot of rubber here, and there's not a lot of, sideways. It almost kind of becomes like an asphalt race. So this is kind of dry slick. And then side tangent to that point, we just talked about cushion, and you can kind of see that. So cushion is going to be, you can see it way up there, but then you can also see, guys, like there's dirt, moisture right here. So you got guys that are going to try to run the very bottom and get on some of this moisture, but then you also have guys that'll run way up by the wall and run the cushion. So when we're talking about, different lanes, guys running the inside, guys run the cushion, these guys, they're running the middle of the track. They're running right through it. So dry slick is often term, if you ever watch a dirt race, there's a really good chance you're going to hear that. And that's referring to track conditions. And if you want to know what a dry slick track is, if you see a lot of dust, it's a pretty good indication. So,
or shiny. The racetrack
shiny.
Gets really shiny. That's where you're gonna have.
And it looks like almost blacktop.
Yeah, it looks glossy. Yep. For sure.
Anything I missed there?
Nope.
Next, so this is going to be another term you're going to hear a lot, and this is only with a dirt late model that you can see down here on the bottom right. And Kel, you can probably chime in. You're the most well-versed on that. But droop rule, and this is always kind of a hot topic. Whatever. Guys love it or hate it. Whatever. Recent rule too, but droop rule. So left rear deck height can be no higher than 51 inches. and then the car is jacked up to extend the shock/limiter chain. And then you must slide a 0.04 sheet aluminum under the tire. So this is basically to check for cheating, and make sure that the guy's shocks are legal and they're not doing some shady stuff. But I'll turn it over to the expert, Kel, if you want to chime in a little bit more on the droop rule and what we're referring to.
Yeah, so basically what they do is they take that left rear of the race car and they'll put a jack underneath. Can't go to the next slide actually. It should be a big picture, I think.
Yep.
Yeah, there you go. So as you can see, they got a floor jack underneath there. They're jacking up the chassis and they're gonna let that left rear hang down where that shock is extended in that limiter chain it will float that rear end. And what they'll do is you'll see a guy, it looks like a broomstick. It's gonna have a sheet of aluminum on the end of it, and he's just gonna kind of stab at the tire until that sheet goes under. So when that sheet goes under, this guy that's on his knees here with that jack, he'll get out his tape measure out of his pocket and he'll stab the tape measure right to the ground. And then he's going to go, he's going to go right to that shiny strip right where that arrow is. Yes. So that is your deck lid height. So it's got to be under 51 inches. So, it just kind of keeps it consistent with, that left rear shock, just because a lot of times in these dirt late model races, you're going to smash up the right rear quarter. So there's really no way to measure it, where guys could just go bang them up and then have something goofy in there. So that's what your droop rule is. Most times they will check them after qualifying and then after the features. So it's basically a sheet of aluminum and 51 inches from the ground. So that rear end just has to kind of hang just enough to get it off the ground. So they'll check shock and limiter chain underneath there. So,
and this is another rule that a lot of guys, dislike, because you win a big race and then post race you'll go. Ricky Thornton Jr. had this happen this year. I forget which race it was, but he won a big race and then after does the whole celebration, the whole 9 yards. Yep, I won the race, got the big check. And then he goes to the tech shed and they do this test on it and it doesn't pass, that he's under 51 inches. Disqualified.
Over 51 inches.
Over 51 inches, my bad.
Yep, got to be under. Yeah.
So if you're over, disqualified. Thanks for participating. Last place, no check.
Yeah.
So when we refer to droop rule, that's a lot of times what we're talking to. They do it at every dirt late model race there is. Sprint cars, there is no such thing. So yeah. Next slide. This is an interesting slide. But what people probably don't realize often is tire options, and tire grooving. So a lot of times when we're talking about tires, we're talking about compound, we're talking about air pressure, and different types of things you can do. So with dirt racing, any sort of dirt racing, you want optimal grip in a different way. So there's different types of compounds of tires. You can run a hard tire or a soft tire. Unless I'm missing the point, pretty self-explanatory. The rubber's going to be a little bit harder on the hard tire and a little bit softer on the soft tire.
Yep.
And you choose that based on track conditions.
Track prep, how you got the car set up, how you groove the tire. There's a million.
Length of race.
Yeah.
But you're basically looking at, how do I maximize my speed on a harder tire or a softer tire? Here would be a good question for you. When are you going to a hard tire versus a soft tire?
Hard tires are gonna be a longer high speed race. Most times you talk about an Eldora or a Knoxville, you're gonna run a hard tire. A softer tire is gonna be a little more flex, there's gonna be a little more grip. So that would be like a smaller, you think of a soft tire, you probably could think of a Fairbury, you could think of a Kokomo, you could think of a shorter track like that. So now that's not to be said that those guys can't run the hard tire at or run those tire combinations opposite. But that most times will be what your selection is based on.
So that'll be your tire compound. Obviously, you can change the air pressure on the tire. You want more air in the tire, less air in the tire. That's up to you based on how you're setting up the car. But then a lot of times what people don't realize too is they are grooving. Whoa. Grooving. You're cutting this tire for more grip. And we got this new element. So you can see this tire. And is what they'll do is this gun right here gets wicked hot and it's got a nice little sharp groover right in here. And if you can see, if you look at these squares on the tire, all you have is this horizontal line right here. Now, if you go back and look at these squares, you see they have a horizontal line, but they also have this vertical line. So you're cutting grooves in the tire based on what you think is going to give your car more grip and make it faster. A shameless plug, if you're on social media, and guy who we're starting to like more and more, and he's racing the Chili Bowl, Nick Hoffman, just put a picture out of what he's doing with his Chili Bowl and his midget car. But he's cutting, you know, how this is cut in two different ways. He's cutting these squares in every different way, and then he's running practice lap, and he's going to see, you know, is the tire wearing a lot quicker in different spots and so forth. So a lot of times you're going to hear us talking about, you know, tires, hard or soft tire. And then within that, you're going to be talking about air pressure, which means you're either going to be blowing it up more or letting air out of it. And then within that, at every dirt track, these guys are grooving their tires. You got somebody on your pit crew who's a tire groover. They come along, they look at the track and say, I'm going to cut your tire this way. It's going to make it faster. So that is some lingo on tires. Gears, different compared to asphalt. Gearing, you only have high gear. You get out there, you put it in, you got it, your low gear, and then you got your high gear. And you put it in high gear, and that's race gear, pedal to the metal. And that's why gear selection becomes critical. There's no shifting during the race or restarts. It's one gear, and that's the gear you're in. The only thing you can adjust within the gear is basically how soon you want to hit your rev limiter. So we always talk about, you know, I wonder what gear these guys are running, or if you watch a race and you hear one guy's engine sounds like it's revved up really high, he's running a bigger gear. So another thing that you'll just hear us talk about dirt racing is gears. You got one gear in racing, in dirt racing, and it's high gear, your go gear. Another critical element to dirt racing, tear offs, keep your vision clear. So a lot of times in racing, or in racing, you'll see that these guys basically in front of In front of their helmets, they basically, it looks like they got a jail cell of metal bars like this that keeps them from getting hit by dirt chunks. That's in a late model, in a sprint car, in a modified. They all got like these, looks like a jail cell in front of their helmets. That's to keep them from getting hit by big dirt chunks, obviously. But then tear off, you can see these little circles. That is when they get too much dirt on their visor and they can't see, they grab this little circle thing as they're driving at rapid speeds, and they go like this and pull it off and throw it out the window, and boom, their vision's clear. So that is what a tear off is. Obviously, it's critical. Keeps their vision clear. Sometimes guys are putting, 25, 30 of these on their windshield for any given race. If it's really dusty, you're going to be doing a lap. You're pulling a tear off, getting clear vision again. No windshield wipers on these cars, obviously. So, that's how you keep your vision clear. And then other mixed terminology you're going to hear us kind of talk about, or we'll throw in there, is shakedown. So that's basically, a guy's out at a track, he's just doing a practice session by himself, or testing different things, different tires. But you'll hear us say shakedown, that's testing a new car or a fixed race car. You'll hear announcers say hooked up, which means that typically the car is really fast. They have the best setup and the car's making the fastest laps. So you'll hear announcers say, yeah, that guy's car is hooked up tonight. He's got the best setup, typically the fastest car. Another couple words you're going to hear us talk about: slider and crossover. That's kind of hard to explain in words without having a video clip live and ready to watch. But basically a slider is if you're in second place and you have a car in front of us on a dirt track, you're sliding right up in front of them without hitting them and basically cutting him off. And in the meantime, you'll pass him, and you won't wreck anybody. But you're sliding right up in front of them and passing them. A crossover would be a guy tries that slider, he cuts you off and slides right in front of you, and then you cut right below him and you're able to pass him. Oh boy.
Just keep going. I'm getting you ready for the next one.
So that's a slider and a crossover. Slider, you're sliding right up in front of them. You're basically cutting them off. But then a crossover is going to be a guy knows that you're going to try to cut him off like that. So you kind of go slower into the corner. He does that slider. He slides right up in front of you. You hit the gas and you cut right below him and you kind of cross him over. As my jackman just drew right there, another term you're always going to hear that you'll go to if you get enough crashes: a Delaware double file restart. And he drew it right there. If you're in first place, you start in the front by yourself. Nobody by you on the inside or outside. And then from there, double file. Second, third, fourth, fifth, everybody's lined up 2 by 2 behind you. So if you're at a dirt track, there's a really good chance you're going to hear a Delaware double file restart. And then lastly, you're always going to hear us talk about track prep. They're track prepping right now at the Chili Bowl before the feature. And track prep can be a whole lot of different things. You can get out there, they basically take, a tiller, they take a grader, they make the track more smooth again. You hear a water truck, they put water on it, and everybody does it differently. Typically you got somebody that's in charge of your racetrack. And they do, track prep, and they basically do it to, kind of reset it, make the track produce the best racing possible so that guys can run the cushion or run the inside. So when you were talking about track prep, that's just machinery on the track, tilling it up. They'll have a grader out there that'll be grading dirt. You have a skid steer out there sometimes, you have a water truck out there, all just, reworking the track to make it better for racing. So that's dirt terminology, what we use, and a lot of times what you hear announcers talking about. So anything I missed, you guys want to hit on?
No, that was solid.
Yeah, I think you hit pretty much everything.
Yeah.
Trying to think.
Good by me. All right.
Thought I had a random thought come to mind, but total brain fart on my part. As we're watching Chili Bowl, I left midget off of the classes.
Yeah.
If you want to see what a midget car looks like, go back to our If We're Starting a Race Team episode.
Yeah. There you go.
It's a team that I said I would start. So I suppose we gotta switch over to the asphalt stuff here, huh?
We do.
We'll
Next
get my
man up.
Yeah, I'll get my stuff up and rolling here. So I had to throw this Days of Thunder one in there. I don't know much about race cars, neither does any other driver. I gotta throw this disclaimer out there, and we've said it before, none of us are engineers by any means and know a lot about race cars. So we're shooting from the hip a little bit, but we're going off just of our personal experiences and things that we've heard over the years as well. So, we're gonna talk about loose and tight, adjustments you can make, choose cone, and many much more things. So I think a great way to start, and this doesn't apply just to asphalt, but this applies to dirt racing as well. Oop, if I can get my thing going here. Race flags. Start with all the different flags that are out there. So there's a lot of them, so I'm going to try and go through them pretty quick. So green, pretty straightforward, starts the race or it restarts the race throughout the event. Green and white checkered, you heard Cam and Kel mention it a couple times here, that green and white checkered, it's the end of the stage, typically used only in NASCAR. I know the ASA Stars Tour, they also have their ASA Stars flag. Same deal, end of the stage. Yellow, debris, or there's a wreck on the track. Basically, there's caution on the track. You got to slow down so that crews can work on cleaning that up. Red, there's extensive cleanup needed, or red or weather delay, stops the race at that point. There's no passing, there's no adjustments on the cars. Race is frozen, basically. White flag, one lap to go in the race. And of course, the checkered flag is the race is over. That one, you want to be the first one that crosses under that checkered flag for the end of the race. Some of these other flags, they're a little bit more specialty. One of them you almost never want to see is that black flag. It means you got a penalty you have to serve, whether it's a pass through, you have to get off of the track. You got to make repairs to your car while the race is going on. It's one you never want to see. And one that's even worse than that is the black flag with the white crosses. That means you didn't serve your penalty, so you are no longer being counted on this track. So for each lap that you turned, you're getting docked a lap. So moving on, going to that blue flag with the yellow stripe, that means you got faster cars behind you. You need to move over, let those faster cars go by. And then the blue flag one that's on here, it's for minor incidents ahead. Use caution. This is used only on the road courses, just because of how wide and out the track can be. There are sometimes where cars spun, you don't need to bring a caution out. Another one that isn't on here, but is used both at the asphalt scene and the dirt scene, is the cross flags. So it's just the flag man. He takes two flags, makes them into an X. You're halfway through the race. It's just a quick little indicator for all the drivers, just to gauge how the race is going. But like I said, all these flags are typically used at any race that you go to. They may have different flags for events here and there, but these are going to be the mainstay flags that you come across. So getting into some of the track descriptions, kind of hitting the different tracks that you might see. You hit super speedway tracks. So typically they're oval tracks that are over 2 mile length. Some of those tracks include Daytona, Talladega, Pocono, and the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Some tracks you may get drafting involved, like Daytona and Talladega, where you get some tracks where it's purely just based on horsepower and aero, like Pocono and Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Moving down, you get to intermediate tracks. So these are going to be oval tracks that are between a mile or two in length. This is where you get a majority of our racetracks on a schedule, especially on the NASCAR scene. So you get tracks like Charlotte Motor Speedway, Milwaukee Mile, the Michigan International Raceway, just some of those tracks that, again, it just comes purely down to setup. You hit the short track scene. That's old tracks that are less than a mile in length. So you hit a little bit of the NASCAR, you hit a little bit of the Asphalt super late model racing as well. So you got Bristol Motor Speedway, Madison International Raceway, Five Flag Speedway, just to throw a few of them out there. And then you got your road courses. So tracks of varying lengths that have left and right turns. I've got pictured Road America up here. We also got Watkins Glen and the Chicago Street Course, just to provide some examples of different tracks that you might see. Going into some of the race terms. So you hear inside and outside. So basically, if a car is on the left is inside, if the car is on the right is outside. So as an example, let's see if I can use the use a marker here as well. So taking this car for example here, got the white car on the right side of the car, that'd be a car on the outside. Whereas now if we're talking about the car on the white, that yellow car on the left side is going to be on the inside. Can I clear this? How do I clear? There we go. I'm figuring it out. So that's, you hear inside or outside. Race pace. You definitely hear this on the NASCAR side. And I think Dale Jr. always brings this up as well. What'd you circle there?
Inside outside, you skip the best racing.
The three wide. Sure. Yep.
This guy right here, he's gonna be 3 wide, and he's gonna say middle of 2, meaning you got one on the inside, you got one on the outside.
Or you get that car that's on the inside, you'll say you're 3 wide, outside two, or something like that.
So that's just 3 wide. And if you're seeing that on a racetrack, that's what you want to see.
Race pace. So this is one that Dale Jr. brings up a lot. It's kind of what's the difference between race pace and race speed. So race pace is a car that doesn't lose a lot of time over the period of a race or of a run. So the guy is running consistent laps throughout the run of a race. Whereas the overall speed, that's your 1 lap speed, where a guy might lose a lot of time as the race goes on as well. So depending on the race, sometimes you want a car that is more set up for race pace versus overall speed, but sometimes you do want a car that is set up for overall speed as well. Talking about downforce, so that's the amount of air pushing down on the car, and I tried to get this up here as an example. So you want as much air pushing down. Let's see if I can get my pen out here again. You want as much air pushing down on this car as possible, because it's going to produce grip, and it's going to help you go throughout, hit the track, and it's going to carry a lot of speed. When you get to drag, it's a lot of air that is slowing down the car. So drag, you're going to see a lot of it here at the spoiler, and basically it acts like a parachute. I'm trying to figure out my words. It grabs the car and it slows it down from there. You also hear a lot of side downforce, where you're getting a lot of side air hitting the side of the car. That could also help turn the car as well. Choose cone, used a lot at the short track scene, but also on the NASCAR scene. Basically, on the NASCAR scene, I got the yellow arrow on the track here that tells a guy, all right, you go either the inside or outside. On the short track scene, literally a guy will bring out a cone, and you got to split the cone from there. Slide job, you talked about a little bit. It's just a guy gets aggressive into the corner and slides up in front of the other one. I think the infamous moment was Kyle Larson when he pulled the slide job on Kyle Busch, and you heard Dale Jr. just yell, "Slide job!" So, otherwise hitting the chip, you kind of reference that a little bit as well. It's kind of works with the gearing as well. Hitting the chip is you're hitting the rev limiter in the motor. It's typically used to help manage the entry speed. So you want to time that out where maybe that chip's hitting 2, 3, 4 times, not halfway down the straightaway like we've heard in some instances as well. It almost sounds like a Jake brake on a truck. Is kind of what it sounds like.
Mm-hmm.
Is the best way to describe it. And then hitting your marks. So that includes braking, throttle points, where to turn in, where the car needs to hit. And I think the best way I could describe that is I actually hopped on iRacing and turned a couple laps to help prove this point. So I gotta get out of
racing.
I gotta get out of my I gotta get out of my pen here.
Click the pen button itself, the black and green one.
The black and green one.
Way over on
Turn
the
off.
corner. On
There
the
we
left.
go. I got it now.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, so as we're letting this thing run, I'll kind of describe my points here. So as I get into turn 3 here, the center bar right in front of me here, as soon as it hits the caution light, I'm starting to turn into the turn. And then when it crosses the center post of the roll cage, that's when I start to let off of the gas. So that's kind of one of my points there. And I'm aiming for that yellow line. So like when I hit this little black patch, I want my tires to be on that line. So there's a couple marks there. Yep, you just had it on there. I'll see if I can back it up. So pretty much right where you marked it at. So that's where I'm aiming for. So that's kind of some of my marks going in. I also have them going out. So like that turn 4 signal, once it crosses that beam right in front of me, or that post in front of me, that's when I'll start kind of playing with the gas, start picking up the gas. And then once I hit the cones here that we just drove by, I'll kind of start letting the car creep up the track and get full corner to head down the straightaway. So when you hear a guy say hit your marks, a driver's got to predetermine, this is my stop, my break off, this is my break point. That's what spotter means when he says hit your marks. That's typically where the driver's going to turn your fastest laps. And that could adjust throughout the race as well, depending on how the tires are running. You might back off a little bit more, or depending on how much of a gap you got to the car behind you. So I was glad I was able to get that to work, kind of help prove what the
What
marks
track
in.
was that?
This is USA Speedway.
Was
It's a
that the
track that's
they-
now defunct.
Was that the track you threw me and Kellen on?
Yep.
Probably.
No,
Yeah.
it 100% is.
Yeah.
Track was miserable.
So it took me a lot of laps to figure out my marks. But it's definitely come through for me. So going into some of the handling lingo. So a common term you'll hear is tight and loose. So we'll start with the loose one. So loose is the rear tires have no grip. Four-wheel slide, or it's a handful to handle. You'll hear that a lot of time. Typically loose is fast, but it's more out of control. I think the best way that we can bring it into like the real world, perfect example, it's a snowy day. You take a turn and you start to feel your rear end kind of kick out a little bit. You got to get the overcorrect to get it back straightened out. That would be considered loose in the racing world. You get to the tight portion of it, that's where the front tires have no grip. So the nose of the car starts sliding towards the wall. A lot of times you'll hear it as plowing, or it's a dump truck. Johnny Sauter's got some other colorful words, but we'll leave that for the racetrack. Tight is slow, but it's more stable. Again, kind of bringing it back to the real world. Tight is typically when you go in, you're starting to take a corner, you turn the wheel, and it just keeps going straight. That's an example of how a car could be tight. No drive off. So that's kind of when it's hard to get on the throttle and the exiting the corner. So you may hear a guy, if they're in the car, he's kind of playing with the throttle or really feathering the throttle as he's trying to get off of the corner. It's because he can't get onto it. Yep, exactly. Kind of what Cam's doing with his hand. He's kind of fluttering his hand a little bit.
You're tapping the gas. You can't just turn the wheel and go like this. Your tires are slipping, so you got to. Yeah.
You want to have a smooth transition into the throttle.
Yeah.
Yep, exactly. And then when you hear guys kind of talking about how the car is handling, they're going to break it down into 3 different sections. You're going to have the entry, the middle, and the exit. So I kind of blocked them off here. This square up towards the top portion of the photo, that's going to be your entry. So you may hear a guy say, "Oh, I'm really loose in the entry." It's going to be that first portion of it. The top middle, just the middle of the corner, or your apex of the corner, and then your entry. Same deal there. So you may hear a guy say, "Yeah, I'm really loose. I'm loose entry, tight middle, and I'm loose off or exit, that's going to be feedback that the crew chief's going to get in order to fix that car. So typically it's, if you want to fix your entry, because that'll maybe it'll maybe change what happens with the rest of the track as well. So when he is relaying that information to his crew chief, you got the adjustments that can be made. I just picked out a couple of them here that are going to be more in race adjustments versus what can be done in the garage, just as there are so many things that can be done in the garage as well. So one of them is air pressures. That basically adds or removes air from the tires to maximize corner grip. I got this little display here. You want it properly inflated so you got the most amount of tread on the track as much as you possibly can without damaging the tire. So underinflated, you hear a lot of times where the cars are blowing tires because they didn't have enough air in them. That's going to maximize your grip, but again, you're going to be damaging the tire and possibly have a blowout as well. Overinflating, you're not getting as much grip on the tire or as tread on the tire because it's overinflated. You're not going to have much grip, so you want to have that proper inflated. Track bar is one of the more common adjustments you hear as well. So raising the track bar loosens the car up, whereas lowering it tightens the car up. It's basically where the axle lines up compared to the center line of the car. So it just raises or lowers that axle just a tad bit to help with the adjustment of the car. I know the photo is a little blurry, but it basically just it changes the amount of pressure on the tire. Is basically what it comes down to. Wedge is no longer NASCAR, so you hear this a lot on the short track scene, but it is the adjustment on the tension of the rear springs of the car. So I was listening to Larry McReynolds. He's one of my favorite crew chiefs to get a lot of information from.
Larry Mack.
Yep, America's crew chief. So he said the wedge basically works like an X on the car. So if you're adjusting left, if you put the wrench in the left rear of the car, it'll adjust the weight in the left rear and the right front. If you're putting it in the right rear, it'll adjust it in the right rear and the left front.
Larry Mack.
So I had to bring that up. Basically, it's like I said, it just adjusts the rear springs of the suspension. Brake bias is another one that the driver has a lot of control in. It's just a little knob in the car that adjusts how much brake goes into either the front of the suspension or the rear suspension, because those brakes are two independent braking systems and have two different controlling pistons as well. So more front brake stops the car more suddenly, but is unstable under braking, and more rear brake slows the car down over time, but is more stable under braking as well. So I know, like when we were running those street stocks at USA, the brake bias is one thing I kind of told you guys to monkey with to see how the car adjusts. Typically, I like to have a lot more rear brake in the car because I like to have the brakes. I want to be able to, as soon as I'm slow enough to make the corner, I want to punch right back in the gas, type of thing. So it does kind of come down to personal preference as far as the driver goes. Otherwise, I think that was actually all that I had. Just some of the basic things as far as the asphalt side of things. Yeah, was there anything else that you fellas had that you feel like I missed at all, or
I'm gonna give this a good old crack.
okay,
Oh, God.
what you got?
So since we're talking about it, whoa, all right. Can I draw in here?
Close your toolbar, click next, or click the X over there. Oh, let me unshare your screen. Oh boy. You can do a whiteboard and Zoom, here, big dog.
Yeah, but I can't.
Right now.
All right. Well, I'm gonna just give this a quick crack because we've talked about it and it's in both series. All right. It's in both series. We just talked about it. I talked about it. Van Girl talked about it, and you're probably going to hear us anytime we're talking about a race. Recap. Can you guys see this control bar?
No.
Okay. When we talk about a race recap, a dirt race, you're going to see it, sometimes in asphalt short track racing. A slider and a crossover. So I'm gonna do my best here. Whoa.
Looks good to
Whoa.
me.
We'll just do this quick. So here's your racetrack like this. You have, I'm just going to draw a box here. This is car number 1. This is car number 2. A slider, this guy, this guy's typically, this car is going to be running the cushion right up by the wall. This guy is going to come real low in here, and he's going to slide up like this right in front of him. And he's going to cut him off. This guy's going to be coming like this. He's going to run real low, and he's going to cut him off. And then they're going to go like that. That's what a slider is. Can I depict it any better?
Nope, that was right on point.
I think you hit it.
Crossover, we can just beep, 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 rewind, back her up. Same 2 cars. Now this guy, driver 1, knows he's going to do the slider and come up here and cut him off. So is what he'll do is he'll slow down a little bit early, and he'll slow down a little bit early in the corner. And when this guy does his slider, he does a crossover. He gets his car pointed down this back stretch, and he cuts low like this off the corner, and he's able to pass him but right back. So this guy will cut up right in front of him, but this guy knows it's coming, so he'll go a little bit slower into the corner. This guy slides up in front of him. He'll cut right underneath him and be able to pass him right back. That's what's called a crossover. You'll see it both in dirt and asphalt racing. So, and a lot of times when we talk about, you're going to hear us anytime we talk about a dirt late model race. Oh, Bobby Pierce threw a wicked slider. Or Brandon Shepard crossed him up.
Or if you're watching the Chili Bowl for the first time, you're going to see a lot of sliders in this.
Correct. So guys slide up the racetrack, and you try to do it so that you just get your rear end of your car right to the front end, and you basically cut them off. So I just wanted to draw that because anytime we're talking about racing, anytime we're race recapping, race previews, live look-ins, you're going to hear us using those 2 terms a lot.
Mm.
And if that depiction, my Art 1 high school level skills, or it wasn't good enough for you, just Google a, dirt track and asphalt slider, slide job, crossover, and you'll get a good idea.
I'd say you can get some of them 164 cars out. One of us could get a little thing going too.
Oh yeah, back like I was a young gun.
Yep. Well, that wraps up the big portion of some lingo and terminology and race format and some of just the common terms that we as diehard race fans mention and say that may be confusing to certain people. So for anybody that's listening, that kind of clears up, and these are all terminology that we will use on the daily as we talk about racing. So just kind of some insight, and even some insight into how race cars react and working on cars themselves. So pretty cool little deal. It just gives you an opportunity to get some true insight into all of the structure and format and lingo and terminology that goes into racing that is most commonly used. So,
And there is a lot of it. So it's always one of those, you don't pick it up that first time, you just learn it over time, and
yeah.
it almost becomes second nature then. So
Yeah. So kind of looking ahead to the rest of the week. Obviously have the Chili Bowl running all week. That one, stay tuned. We're gonna do something late in the week. Still working on schedule of that. So it may be a live look-in. It may be just another episode. We're still working on the behind the scenes of that, so stay tuned for that. And then you have Vado running as well for the weekend. So their finale, they got a while to run down there yet as well. So stay tuned to Vado. Both of those events are on FloRacing. So if you want to watch both, you can watch two screens on Flow as long as you're on the same Wi-Fi. So phone, computer, TV, computer,
Yep.
TV, phone, computer, smart
Two
TV, whatever.
monitors like I got it
Yeah,
set up here.
whatever, however you can manage to work it. You can run those screens on one internet. So got those two events. And then kind of going ahead to next week's post Chili Bowl edition, we are gonna do the next episode will be your top 10 bucket list race events to attend. So we'll bring you the top 10. And I have a feeling we're gonna get some wild ones from a little bit of everything from asphalt to dirt to IndyCar to sprint cars to late models to
Oh,
NASCAR.
I'm ready to show you guys my list. I got a list that I keep in my phone just kind of as races come up and I get to them.
Yeah.
I am ready to show you some of the races that are on my list.
So that'll be a good one. That'll be again as always if we can get 5-10 races of comments from fans, we'd be more than happy to put together a little fan top 10 or fan top 5. So that will be next week's episode. So stay tuned for that as well. That will be back on our regular weekly scheduled podcast. So any kind of final thoughts before we wrap up here, Phyllis?
No, I think this was fun. Obviously there's a lot of other things that go on behind the scenes that, we could talk our ears off on, but I think we just kind of hit some of the basic stuff throughout the terminology and the dirt race and asphalt scene. But always ask anybody that you're going to the races with too, they're gonna be able to give you a lot of good information. And the best way to do that is go to your local short track. You'll be able to learn a lot of stuff that goes on there.
No, and I think hopefully we achieved the goal and purpose of this video is one, just to give you a baseline understanding that, you can, one, if you go to a racetrack, a short track, like we always encourage, you've got a baseline, a general, a little bit about the format, a little bit about, the cars, the tires, whatever. Hopefully we've given you a baseline that when you go to your short, whatever racing, whatever racing's around you, whatever racetrack, that you have a baseline knowledge that you can, talk a little shop with somebody around you. You at least know the format and kind of how it's going to go. But then not only that, but more importantly, now we got you guys on the same level as us. Well, maybe not quite at the same level, but we've got you guys racing 101. So now we're expecting a lot more engagement from the followers, to say the least. Now that you guys know what we're talking about, when we're talking about slide jobs and crossovers and stuff like that, we're talking about tire pressures. Now we can get a lot more fan engagement, and hopefully, this provided a little bit more baseline that you can, watch a NASCAR race coming up here. We're not far away, or watch, a Chili Bowl race, or watch any race, and just start where we all did of like, it's not just cars turning left. You can start getting into the intricacies.
Yep.
Finer details.
Finer,
And
yeah. Let's stick with that. Stones up here. Yeah, the finer details. And you can start on putting yourself in a driver's shoes. I would try a slider. I would cross them over. Different setups, and even now you can listen along to announcers. They'll do a great job explaining things, but now when they're talking about stage breaks, you know what a stage break is. So I had a lot of fun. We're all passionate about racing, and so hopefully we can share our passion and give you guys a baseline and bring on more and more passionate race fans.
We talk about FloRacing a lot. I'm just thinking about it. Now's a good time to do a free trial FloRacing. Give her a shot and see what it's like.
Cause you got
Yeah, a
racing
lot
on.
of good racing on right now.
Yeah, a lot of hours of racing. So, yeah, that wraps up race lingo and format, racing 101, racing for dummies, however you want to say it, call it, do it. That kind of wraps it up. As always, we appreciate the listens, the likes, the comments, the interaction. We love that from the fans. So as you go, don't be afraid to drop a comment on any of the videos on either Spotify and or YouTube. And stay tuned. We'll have Chili Bowl coming up end of the week. We'll see you guys end of the week.